So I do want to get to this next call. It's Chase, and him. He's in the USA, and he wants our opinions on the value of watching graphic footage to educate and motivate activism. So, hi, Chase. How you doing?
Hey guys, doing well. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I guess I want to talk about, get your ideas on where to draw the line, because I don't want to overwhelm people too much, but so I do activism for human rights and animal rights. And, I think that showing the graphic footage from time to time, at least, maybe once a week or something on my social media, for example, is one
You
of
know who you
many
are.
forms of activism that can, okay, yeah, that can be effective. There's a lot of different forms of activism that are effective, like showing happy people and happy animals and stuff like that. But also, I think it can the violence can be really abstract unless we show the footage of the individual victims suffering. I think it helps us connect to the victims. But I also know that, some people are super sensitive, and I used to be super, even more sensitive than I am now. I used to be really sensitive. And so I had to kind of build up my ability to watch these type of things like police brutality or hospitals being bombed or, slaughter footage. And now I feel like I'm able to watch it with a bit more ease because I've been somewhat desensitized. But I had PTSD before I started watching this stuff, and it might have furthered my PTSD, but I think it's still a sacrifice I'm willing to make to watch the footage and then share it.
I have different thoughts on it. Like number one, you brought up that you became desensitized to it after a while. So after a while, it kind of loses its shock value and doesn't have the effect that you wanted to begin with. Number two, I don't know that it depends on how you present that kind of content. If you're presenting it in a way that people have to see it, like I remember anti-abortion activists with big giant 8x8 photographs of aborted fetuses on Main Street in one of the towns I lived in. And when they all left that day, and none of them were from my town, they just came blitzed it one day. The reaction was more negative than positive because of the pictures that they had lined Main Street with. So I think you have to watch how you're presenting that type of content. If you're forcing people to see it, you may end up affecting your cause in a negative way than in a positive way. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think you make a good point there. I'm not sure exactly how to analyze it right now, but I'm going to keep thinking about that. I think it might have something to do with the legitimacy of the cause as opposed to, and also maybe like showing, I don't know, there might be a difference between showing, dismembered bodies versus showing a living individual in a state of fear, that might strike better, but not be so gruesome.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. I mean, you can show the negative plight of individuals without having to get graphic, right? I'm trying to think of the photographer that was in California during the Depression that photographed. He's got the famous picture, black and white photograph of the woman in the migrant camp. He did a bunch of photographs of the people who were stuck during the Big Depression in these migrant camps that had come west from the Dust Bowl of the Middle West, and he really got people to understand through his pictures in Life magazine what was going on there, right? There was nothing graphic, but he was still showing what was wrong, what these people were going through. So I think we can communicate that message without blood and gore.
Sure. Ashley, what are your thoughts?
Me personally, some of my stronger viewpoints I've found was a lot better to share when I had like different platforms. So like I don't put some of the stuff that I think, especially the really strong viewpoints, on my personal Facebook. But I then made social media specifically for all of my atheist stuff and all of that because I knew that it wouldn't have the impact that I wanted it to because like he's saying, it would be like I'm forcing it on them.
Right. Hey, our backup host, Eli Slack, just put it in the text chat. Context matters, and that's exactly what I was trying to communicate, and I think what Ashley was trying to communicate too. So.
Okay, cool.
Something
Well, I appreciate
that would work
you.
in one instance might be just the opposite of what you need to work in another instance. So
Sometimes it's really
Yeah,
hard
I
when you feel
understand what
very
you're saying.
passionately and you want other people to feel what you're feeling. But it is kind of good to
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
separate that out a little bit.
yeah, I understand. I guess I myself have been severely impacted by some hardcore footage, and I know a lot of people who've made huge life changes because of some graphic footage. And but I also know that a lot of people are hesitant to even begin to try to watch it. And I think that we underestimate ourselves sometimes, and maybe we should, next time something comes up that we're at first afraid to watch, maybe we should power through and watch it for a bit and see how much we can take in order to get educated and motivated to take action for the many victims of this world, because I feel like if I was one of the ones that was really suffering, that I would hope that somebody would watch the video evidence of what's being done to me, so that they would know and make that connection to me, and strive to make a collective action to represent and liberate me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, your heart is in the right place and how strongly you feel and how sensitive you feel to some of these things. I mean, that's a really, really good thing, especially in a world where people can be, so hateful.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't want to make people faint or nothing either, because I know some people are really sensitive to seeing blood and stuff like that, so especially in person. But I hesitate to give them a trigger warning on social media, saying, because I think that, again, like we underestimate ourselves. I think that we usually can see a little bit of this, or that whatever suffering we go through, I think pales in comparison. Like the suffering that we go through by watching a second or two of something violent is nothing compared to what the victim went through.
Yeah. Some people need a trigger warning, though. I mean, like there's a lot of things that I can watch or I can hear that I know, like for instance, like my mom would never be able to. She's just way too sensitive about some of that stuff, does not want to hear about it or see it.
And as somebody that suffers from PTSD myself, it's not something that you get over. It's something you carry with you for the rest of your life. You just get it more under control. There are things that will set me off. I'll see something and I'll just be reduced to gibberish because of a news story that I read or I heard something on the radio. So you got to be very careful about things like that. That's really careful about things like that. And you did mention you suffered from PTSD yourself, so you should probably, I'm sure you understand that, how those triggers work, right?
Yeah, it's a tough line to walk, because I guess I just feel that the majority of people can handle watching this. They just don't believe that
But is
yet.
it worth causing harm to the other people to get to the majority? That's the question you have to ask yourself. And that's why I brought up the triggers with PTSD and why you should understand that yourself. I mean, would you want to be triggered up, but would you want your PTSD triggered because of a right-wing, something that from a right-wing cause said or showed you? Probably not. Right?
Well, no, but I think that's different than my PTSD being triggered, which it happens every day, pretty much when I scroll through my social media. It's just Gaza problem.
Well, yeah, I get what you're saying, but what I'm saying is, do you want to add on to that?
Well, if necessary to prevent further suffering, then yeah, because if I put
but you're causing suffering by doing it. That's what I'm trying to explain. Yeah, you are like bringing out the suffering to these people, but you're causing suffering to a group of people as well by doing so.
I understand. And when people share what I believe should be shared, and I see it and it bums me out and triggers my PTSD a little bit, that's for me to deal with. And I need to, but I'm not going to ignore the suffering of the world just for my own sake. And so I don't.
That's not what I'm asking you to do.
Hold on. I don't deem what they did a negative thing when they posted this, because if I posted something and included a trigger warning, most people would not watch it, even though they can, and that's messed up.
I think it's messed up that you're forcing people to watch something like that, especially when there's people like me who could see something like that and be turned into a gibbering pile of humanity because I watched something like that. And that's what I'm trying to communicate to you. It's like you don't care about this group of people because they're not most people.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's okay.
I do care, and I wish I didn't have to share this stuff, and maybe I should include a trigger warning, but maybe that would be that might not be as effective as leaving the trigger warning off. It's something I need to think about some more. But
sure.
Also think about maybe somebody would want to watch it later on, but maybe they're at work in that moment, and what if they were triggered while they're at work and they just happen to see it during like a 15-minute break, or they're with some family, or they're near their kids, or certain situations like that where it's just not the time and place. But if they had a warning, they could maybe like flag that post and go and watch it later when it's a more appropriate time.
Yeah, that's a good thing to think about. Another thing is just that maybe they shouldn't follow me on social media because I have a history of posting this stuff, and they should know, that I'm trying to spread the word, and that I lean towards utilitarianism, which means I am willing to, have some unfortunate things happen for a greater good, which means spreading the word and showing this evidence,
Yeah, I know my posts get out to people who aren't my followers, so I'm not sure that is a valid solution to the problem, because the posts still get out to people who don't follow you. So, and that's what I'm talking about, is that like when you post something like that, you don't put a trigger warning, you're actually just shoving that into their face, just like those anti-abortion people were doing on Main Street in my town, and literally got a negative reaction to it. People hated those people more than they hated abortion after they left. And that's why I kind of brought that up first, is that that you might be pissing off people more than you think you are.
Yeah, I still think that I'm hearing you, I hear you, but I still think that depends on the validity of the cause and the values of the people that are
No,
watching
it doesn't.
footage.
No, it doesn't. If you're gonna horrible graphic scenery is horrible graphic scenery, whether it's for a cause that you believe in or a cause that you're against. it's still horrible graphic scenery that a lot of people don't want to see and will harm or hurt people if it gets shoved in their face. And I keep trying to explain this
Yeah,
to
and
you, and you keep making excuses about why it's okay to do it. And I'm telling you that it's simply not okay to do that.
well,
To cause
again, I
harm to
think that,
people
like,
is not okay.
okay, well, I think that, like, I think we might be going around in circles, you know. Again, so I don't want to repeat myself, but I do appreciate your time, and thank you for all the activism that you do. You know, sometimes just a conversation is all that's needed, and there's no need to show graphic footage. And I wish it could be that situation all the time. But
You can you can also show footage that isn't
talked,
graphic. There are other ways to
yeah,
get
that's true,
to communicate your ideas.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true, and I do that a lot as well. But I still think there's time for graphic footage, and you know, but I need to rethink whether or not to put a trigger warning on there. So thank you for challenging me on that and making me think.
All right, thanks, Chase. I always appreciate conversations with you, even if we don't agree. So, I mean, you could call in with some great topics. So I appreciate that.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you.